The iron gate creaked loudly as it opened. The metallic sound echoed through the corridor of Block C in the maximum security prison. The inmates, used to the monotonous routine, paused their conversations and turned their eyes to the new figure being escorted in by 2 guards. He was tall, with a shaved head, firm eyes, and a deep, quiet weariness in his expression. "Who's that?" muttered Cassiano, the leader of Cell 12, without taking his eyes off the newcomer. "Another fool for the collection," replied Tico. "Cassiano's right-hand man." The new guy said nothing. He simply walked silently to his new cell, carrying a small bag of clothes and documents. Inside, 3 inmates stared at him like they were sizing up prey. The atmosphere was hostile, the tension unspoken. No one liked a stranger, especially one who didn't talk and kept his eyes on the floor. His name was Raul, Brazilian, born in San Bernardo do Campo, and newly transferred from another state prison due to security reasons. None of the inmates knew exactly what that meant. Usually, transfers like that only happened when someone was marked for death or was too dangerous for the place they were in. On the first night, Raul sat on the bottom bunk, silent, just watching, while the others either slept or laughed. At crude jokes and stories that always ended in fights or death, he seemed distant, like his mind was somewhere else entirely. On the second day, the stares grew heavier. He avoided joining any group. He didn't laugh, didn't talk, didn't ask for anything. That made people uncomfortable. In prison, someone who stays silent is seen as either arrogant or a snitch. This guy thinks he's better than us. "Cassiano doesn't even say good morning," said Tico, sharpening a toothbrush into a weapon. "Calm down. First we test him, then we decide." And the test came during yard time. Raul was approached by 3 inmates who started with casual conversation. But soon the tone shifted. "So man, what's your story? Where you from?" one of them asked, arms crossed. Raul replied only with a brief, guarded glance. "What, you mute now?" said another, giving him a slight shove. Raul stepped back but didn't react. That was seen as weakness. The taunting escalated. "We don't like quiet artists here. You better introduce yourself properly." The 3 surrounded Raul. One pushed harder, another raised a fist. Then, without a word, Raul took off his shirt. Tattooed on the left side of his chest, faded but unmistakable, was the insignia of the First Command of Warsaw, a Polish faction almost unknown in Brazil, but feared in Europe for its brutality and its ties to international cartels. Cassiano, watching from afar, stood up immediately. "Stop now!" he said firmly. The others froze. Cassiano walked over to Raul, looked at the tattoo, and widened his eyes. This wasn't just some random ink. That tattoo was given only to those who had survived the blood baptism, a brutal initiation ritual in Eastern European prisons. "Leave the guy alone now," Cassiano repeated, this time with more force. Nobody understood. Why would Cassiano, who feared no one, suddenly back down like that? Raul calmly put his shirt back on and returned to the shade, as if nothing had happened. That night, Cell 12 slept in silence, and for the first time in years, even the guards seemed to walk more quietly near that door. The following morning, the prison moved as usual. Harsh voices echoed down the halls, metal clanked, and guards barked orders. But something was different in Cell 12. The usual chaos, the loud bravado, the fights for dominance, had temporarily faded into an uneasy silence. Raul had earned an unspoken respect overnight. Cassiano sat on the top bunk, staring at Raul without saying a word. It wasn't fear. It was curiosity mixed with caution. No one knew much about the First Command of Warsaw, but it was clear that the tattoo wasn't just decoration, it was a warning. "You're not from around here, huh?" Cassiano finally said, breaking the silence. Raul looked up, meeting Cassiano's gaze. He nodded slowly, his voice low and calm. "Poland." "Poland?" Tico echoed, incredulous. "What the hell is a Brazilian doing with a Polish gang tattoo?" Raoul's. Her face tightened. I didn't choose it. It's part of a past I didn't ask for. The other inmates leaned in, intrigued but wary. You owe them? Got in trouble? Cassiano asked. No debts. It's complicated. Raoul's eyes darkened. It's not just a gang. It's survival. Cassiano grunted. Well, you survived something. That much we know. The atmosphere changed. The inmates no longer saw Raoul as just a quiet stranger, but as someone with a story too dangerous and deep to ignore. That night, whispers spread across the prison like wildfire. Raoul was no ordinary prisoner. He was rumored to have ties that could bring chaos or protection, depending on who he chose to align with. Meanwhile, the guards noticed a shift too. Raoul wasn't causing trouble, but his presence unsettled the balance. Some feared he might be a mole or a dangerous outsider sent to disrupt the prison's delicate power structures. Despite his silence, Raoul observed everything: the alliances, betrayals, and secret deals that kept this harsh world running. He knew he had to play it carefully if he wanted to survive. Days passed. Raoul's reputation grew quietly. New prisoners who arrived heard stories about the guy with the Warsaw tattoo, the one who hadn't backed down when the toughest tried to break him. One afternoon, a brutal fight broke out between two rival groups. Cassiano and his crew were involved, but Raoul stayed on the sidelines. Yet when a knife was pulled and aimed at Cassiano, Raoul stepped forward. In one swift motion, he disarmed the attacker, ending the fight before it spiraled into a bloodbath. From that moment, no one doubted Raoul's strength or his will. The mysterious tattoo was more than a symbol. It was a promise of power and survival. But Raoul's past was catching up. One evening, a letter slipped under his cell door. The handwriting was unfamiliar, the message chilling. You can't run from what you are. The past will find you. Raoul held the note tightly, his mind racing. His secret was out, and soon everything he tried to bury would explode. Raoul clenched the letter in his hand, the words burning in his mind like a warning etched in fire. You can't run from what you are. The past will find you. The cold cell felt even colder now. He paced slowly, the weight of those words sinking deep into his thoughts. He had thought the prison was a place to leave his past behind, to survive day by day, but now it was clear his past was stalking him. Every shadow seemed to whisper secrets, every glance carried a hidden threat. That night, the prison was restless. Whispers of a new threat circulated among the inmates. Rumors spread that someone was looking for Raoul, someone who knew the secrets behind the Warsaw tattoo. Raoul sat quietly on his bunk, listening to the murmurs. He had to act. He needed allies, and fast. His silence had protected him so far, but now silence would be his enemy. The next day, Raoul approached Cassiano. The leader's eyes flickered with surprise, but also a hint of respect. I need to know who's coming for me, Raoul said softly. I can't fight this alone. Cassiano studied him. Few ever asked for help here, fewer still admitted fear. All right, Cassiano said after a long pause. But you owe me. We do this my way. Raoul nodded. There was no other choice. Together, they began to dig into the prison's underground networks. Cassiano's men whispered to contacts. Raoul shared what he knew about his past affiliations and enemies. Slowly, a dangerous picture emerged. A rival faction from Europe had sent assassins to silence Raoul, fearing what he knew. Tensions rose. The prison's atmosphere grew charged, like a storm ready to break. Raoul trained, prepared for confrontation, but he also looked for a way out. Escape wasn't just a dream, it was a necessity. One night, a coded message reached Raoul through a contact in the kitchen. It was a warning. Someone had infiltrated the prison under the guise of a new inmate, sent to eliminate him. Raoul's instincts screamed danger. He prepared for the inevitable clash, knowing the symbol on his chest had put a target on his back. As the days went by, every step Raoul took was shadowed by unseen eyes. The battle for survival was about to begin, and the prison would never be the same. Days passed, but the threat loomed closer than ever. Raoul could feel it in the way the other prisoners glanced his way, quick and cautious, as if sensing the storm before it broke. The message about the infiltrator haunted him. He knew the prisons. Walls were closing in like a cage, tighter than ever. Cassiano kept his promise, sending his men to gather information and keep a watchful eye. The underground network buzzed with whispers, footsteps in corridors, exchanged glances, hidden warnings. The silence in cell 12 was heavy with anticipation. One evening, during the dim light of the evening lockdown, a new inmate was brought. In tall, muscular, with cold eyes that scanned the room like a predator. Raoul's heart raced as the guards slammed the cell doors shut behind the newcomer. Cassiano's voice was low but firm. "That's your ghost, Raoul. Watch your back." The new inmate, known only as Victor, wasted no time. He walked directly to cell 12, eyes locked on Raoul. There was no question, no hesitation. He had come for a purpose. Victor's reputation preceded him. A ruthless enforcer for the rival European faction, known for his brutal methods and merciless tactics. Raoul's mind raced. This was no ordinary fight. This was a war hidden beneath the surface, a deadly game where every move meant life or death. The following days were tense. Victor shadowed Raoul's every step, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Raoul trained quietly, preparing for the inevitable confrontation. His strength was not just physical, but the knowledge of survival learned from years of hardship and bloodshed. Cassiano's crew grew protective, but even they knew this was Raoul's battle to fight. The cell block felt like a pressure cooker, ready to explode. One night, in the prison yard under the veil of darkness, Victor approached Raoul. Words were few, but the challenge was clear. "You don't belong here," Victor hissed. Raoul's eyes narrowed. "Neither do you." Without warning, the fight erupted, fists and fury clashing in a brutal dance of survival. Guards rushed in, breaking the fight apart, but the message was clear. The war had begun. Back in cell 12, bruised but unbroken, Raoul stared at the tattoo on his chest in the flickering light. This symbol was more than ink. It was a legacy, a mark of battles fought and lives lost. And the fight for survival was only just beginning. The days following the fight between Raoul and Victor were tense and uncertain. The prison was a powder keg, waiting for a spark to ignite chaos. Raoul's chest still throbbed from the bruises, but his resolve was unshaken. He knew that surviving here meant more than just strength. It meant strategy, alliances, and sometimes betrayal. Cassiano had kept his word, but Raoul felt the weight of a debt he hadn't yet repaid. The prison hierarchy was fragile, built on fragile loyalties and constant shifting. Raoul needed allies beyond Cassiano's crew if he wanted to survive the war creeping closer. Late one night, Raoul was approached by a quiet inmate named Mikołaj, a Polish prisoner known for his skills in gathering information and navigating the prison's underground networks. Mikołaj spoke softly, but with conviction. "I know who sent Victor," he whispered. "It's not just a rival gang, it's bigger. There are powerful players who want you dead." Raoul's interest was piqued. "Who exactly?" Mikołaj looked around nervously. "A shadow organization tied to your past in Warsaw. They believe you carry secrets that could destroy them." This revelation shook Raoul. His past was not just catching up, it was overtaking him. The shadow organization was more dangerous than any gang he had faced. "We need to move fast," Mikołaj said. "You have to find a way out before they close the trap." Raoul nodded. Escape was no longer just an option. It was a necessity. Meanwhile, rumors of the brewing conflict spread throughout the prison. guards began tightening security, wary of the rising tension. Raúl and Cassiano formed an uneasy truce, recognizing that their survival depended on cooperation, but trust was scarce in a place built on deception. One evening, while Raúl planned his next move, he overheard a conversation between two inmates. The words struck like a knife. "Victor's orders changed," one whispered. "We're to eliminate everyone who helps him, Cassiano's crew included." Raúl realized that the war was not just against him, it was against anyone who dared to stand with him. The betrayal was closer than he thought. Raúl's world was crumbling, but the tattoo on his chest reminded him of one truth. In this place, survival was the ultimate battle. The prison was a fortress of shadows and whispered threats, but Raúl knew the moment of truth had arrived. The war, hidden beneath layers of deceit and fear, was about to reach its violent climax. Cassiano's warning echoed in Raúl's mind. Trust no one. The betrayal was near, but Raúl's resolve had never been stronger. He would not only survive, he would turn the tables. That night Raúl gathered the few loyal allies he had left. Micoaj, Cassiano, and a handful of trusted men listened. As Raúl outlined his plan, it was dangerous, nearly suicidal, but it was their only chance. "We strike first," Raúl said, voice low but steady. "We hit their supply, cut off their power here inside the prison." The men nodded. The element of surprise was their only advantage. Under the cover of darkness, they moved silently through the corridors, avoiding guards and enemies alike. Raúl's heart pounded, not with fear, but with fierce determination. Every step was a step toward freedom or death. As they reached the rival faction's hold, a violent explosion ripped through the silence. Fire and smoke engulfed the hallway. Chaos erupted. In the chaos, Raúl faced Victor once again. This time, it was no longer just a fight, it was a battle for their very lives. Blows landed with brutal force, blood mixed with sweat. Neither man gave quarter. Finally, Raúl saw an opening and delivered a devastating strike, knocking Victor to the ground. But just as victory seemed within reach, sirens blared. The guards were flooding in. Raúl's heart sank. They had been betrayed. Suddenly Cassiano appeared, gun in hand. "Time to disappear," he growled. Raúl didn't hesitate. Together they fought their way out, escaping through a secret passage. Cassiano had hidden for emergencies. Outside, under the pale light of dawn, Raúl took a deep breath. The prison was behind him, but his battle was far from over. The tattoo on his chest was no longer just a symbol of survival. It was a badge of honor. A reminder that sometimes the greatest fight is the one for redemption. As Raúl disappeared, into the rising sun, a new chapter awaited, one where he would confront his past on his own terms.